1 week, I did not tell anyone. Not family, not friends. I kept eating on schedule, kept going through the same routines, kept my face composed. Nobody noticed. I was sure of it. But on day 2, my cat started doing something she had never done before, and she did not stop until that week was over. It took another month of research for me to understand what she had actually been picking up on. Cats do not read your face the way people do. They read something far older and far harder to hide. Stay until the end because what I found last answers a question most of us have never thought to ask. Here is what most people assume. Cats respond to what we show on the outside: tone of voice, body language, the way we move. And to some degree, that is true. But the research tells a more complicated story, one where the signals your cat is reading have nothing to do with what you consciously decide to show. Real stress, sustained stress, becomes chemistry before it becomes behavior. Cortisol rises. Sweat composition shifts. These things have a smell, and cats are built to read exactly that before you have even fully registered what you are hiding. She was always an independent cat, would come find me when she wanted, sleep in her own corner, run on her own schedule. But on day 2 of that week, something changed. Not that she was following me everywhere, not that she was demanding attention, just closer, sitting where she could see me, staying in the same room instead of the next one. I thought she was going through some phase of her own. In 2019, researchers at the University of Vienna published findings on how cats respond to shifts in their owner's emotional state. They found that cats made measurable changes in their proximity behavior, staying closer, initiating more contact, monitoring more frequently when owners were experiencing elevated stress. Even when owners reported making no conscious change to their behavior or routine, the cats were not responding to what their owners were doing. They were responding to something their owners were emitting. When I read that study, I went back through my notes. She had started the proximity shift on exactly day 2, before I had shown anything on the outside. If your cat has ever seemed to move closer to you during a period when you were trying to hold something in that shift was not random. They were already tracking something. You just did not know what it was. But here is where it gets more interesting. I kept coming back to one question. If I was not acting any differently, what was she reading? The answer turned out to be something I had not thought about since high school. When you are carrying real sustained stress, your body changes its chemistry. Cortisol rises, adrenaline fluctuates, sweat composition shifts. These are measurable physical changes, and they have a smell. A cat's olfactory system contains roughly 200 million scent receptors, compared to 5 million in a human. A 2022 study at Carolina Veterinary Specialists found that cats could detect changes in human cortisol levels through scent alone, with accuracy high enough that researchers described their sensitivity as being on par with professionally trained medical detection dogs. They are not guessing at your emotional state. They are reading a chemical signal your body produces before your brain has finished processing what it is responding to. That stopped me. That entire week I had been telling myself I was managing it, keeping it contained. But at the chemical level, the level my cat was operating on, nothing was contained at all. If this is making you look back at what your cat has actually been picking up on all this time, that is exactly why this channel exists. The next time you feel like you are successfully hiding something, understand that your cat already has the data. Not because they are perceptive in the way we usually mean that word, but because they carry a sensory system built precisely for this kind of reading. And science actually backs up what comes next in a way I did not expect. By day 3, I noticed something else. She was talking more. Not the familiar demand meow she uses for food. Not the short chirp she makes at birds outside the window. Something different, quieter, shorter. She would make a sound as she walked past me, or as she settled nearby. Nothing urgent, nothing demanding. It felt more like checking to make sure I was still there. I thought it was strange at the time, but I had no framework to understand it. Researchers studying cat-human communication at Stockholm University found that the vocalizations cats direct at their owners change in both frequency and pitch, depending on the owner's emotional state. During periods of owner stress, cats showed a significant increase in short, low-amplitude sounds researchers classified as contact calls, as distinct from demand calls. The difference matters. Demand calls are about what the cat wants. Contact calls are about confirming the connection is still there. I went back through some audio I had recorded that week for an unrelated reason, and she was doing exactly this. Short, quiet sounds. Not asking for anything. Just making contact. If your cat has ever seemed to talk to you more during a hard stretch, not loudly, not demandingly, but in a way that felt like small check-ins, that was not random behavior. That was a response to something they had already detected, and they were not ignoring it. This is the part I wish I had known sooner. By day 4, she did something she had never done once in the 3 years we had lived together. I was sitting at my desk, not doing anything differently. She jumped up, walked across the keyboard, and licked my hand, slowly, deliberately. Then she sat down right beside me. I remember feeling touched and completely caught off guard, because this was not who she was. I had no idea what had just happened. Allogrooming, the behavior of one cat grooming another individual, is one of the most studied social bonding behaviors in domestic cats. A 2021 paper from the University of Antwerp found that cats extend allogrooming to their owners, specifically in response to elevated stress signals, and that this behavior correlates directly with the cat's attachment level. The cats most likely to groom a stressed owner were those with the strongest established bond. This is not a random act of affection. It is a targeted intervention, the cat doing the one thing their social toolkit says should help. She had never licked my hand before that week. She did it 3 more times before the week was over. And when I went back through the tracking data, the timing lined up exactly with the day my cortisol would have been at its peak. If your cat has ever licked your hand or wrist during a period when you were quietly carrying something, they were not acting randomly. They identified a stress signal, and they responded with the most direct comfort behavior in their repertoire. That is not instinct. That is attention. Save this one. What I am about to tell you is the part that completely changed how I see everything that happened that week. On the last day of that week, something shifted. Not suddenly, not dramatically. Just a decision I had been avoiding for a long time. I finally made it. The weight did not disappear overnight, but something loosened. I moved through the rest of the day differently, and that night, for the first time in a week, she went back to her own corner, not staying close anymore. No more quiet check-in sounds. Just back to being exactly the cat she had been before that week started. I sat there for a long time after she left the room, because that was the moment I understood what the entire week had actually been. A study published in PLOS One in 2020 tracked cat behavior across multiple owner stress cycles and found that the behavioral changes in cats increased proximity, vocalization shifts, allogrooming consistently resolved when owner cortisol levels returned to normal. The cats were not operating on memory or routine. They were tracking a real-time chemical signal and adjusting continuously. The study's authors described this as a form of emotional synchronization, the cat's behavior functioning as a live mirror of the owner's internal state. She was not acting strangely that week. She was responding accurately, specifically, and continuously to something I thought I was keeping to myself. And when it was over, she knew that too. Think back to the last hard stretch you moved through in silence, the week you held it in, the days you kept the face on. Your cat was already tracking it, from somewhere around day 2. Here is what I kept coming back to after all of this research. We spend a lot of time wondering whether our cats truly understand us, whether they know us in any real sense, whether the bond goes deeper than routine and food and warmth. But the research keeps coming back to the same answer, and it is more specific than we usually give it credit for. Your cat does not read your face. They do not interpret your words. They do not ask you how your day was. But they carry a sensory system that has been reading the chemistry of the people around them for 10,000 years. And what that system detects is not the version of yourself you decide to show. It is the version that exists underneath before the managed presentation, before the composed face, before the decision that everything is fine. That version, the one you keep private, is the version your cat has always known. You have been carrying things alone and thinking no one around you could see it. But in every one of those weeks, In every one of those days, there was a creature sitting nearby, running a continuous and accurate read on exactly what you were holding. Not judging it, not trying to fix it, just staying close. That is not just instinct. That is the oldest kind of company there is, in the only language they have. And if you want to understand the other side of this, not what your cat is reading from you, but what your cat is saying to you, I have a video about what I discovered when I seriously studied cat behavior after conflict. Your cat has already apologized to you. You just have not recognized it yet. That video picks up exactly where this one ends.